You know, I just love the look of spiral notebook background papers on my scrapbook layouts, especially if the style page is an art journaling page or any page where a notebook would seem a natural thing to be recording your memories on. Hi, I'm Vicki Robinson. I'm a digital scrapbooking designer, and I've got a set of templates in my shop that will help you turn any background paper in your stash into a spiral notebook paper in a flash. Let me share my screen and I'll show you how to use them. These are the notebook layered templates. There are 4 of them, 2 with a left spiral, and on the left side there's one set that has the single spiral and then a set that has a double spiral. And then there's also 2 with a center spiral, again, single ring and then the double ring. You'll notice when you purchase the product that there are 2 zip files attached there for you to download. One contains the templates in a PSD format and the other contains them in a TIFF format. You can download them both or just whichever format you prefer to work with. They're exactly the same. TIFF files just generally tend to be smaller, so if you're concerned about the hard drive space, maybe you want to use the TIFFs, but it's totally up to you. You can download them both and then throw away a one, or just download what you want to use, but they're exactly the same. They will operate exactly the same way. Also, you may have noticed in the product description there are a couple of sample papers. They're not included with the templates, but I did want to give you some idea of what they look like when you've actually attached your paper to them. So that's why you see those. But we can attach any paper, as I said, in your stash to get this really cool look. I prefer to work in the TIFF format just because, as I said, the file size tends to be smaller. And I think for our purposes today, let's start with template number 3. It is the double rings in the center center of the page. Now first I'm going to show you how to use these in Photoshop Elements. It works basically the same in both the full version and in Elements, but there are some slight differences in Elements, so I wanted to show them both to you. I'm going to click and drag this onto the Photoshop Elements icon on my dock, and it's going to open up in, I'm using, I think this is Photoshop Elements 2024, but these steps would be the same no matter what version you're working. So let's just take a little closer look at what's in the layers panel here. Let me see if I can, I don't think I can make this any bigger for you. Nope, I don't think so. The bottom layer, the very bottom layer here, is this. It says clip Underpaper here. This is what you see here in white along the center. And many times, if you'll notice, when you open a spiral notebook in real life, the pages will come together and you'll see basically you'll be looking at the inside of the 2 covers of your spiral notebook. So that's what is represented, and if you would like that to be some other color than white, you can clip up a paper here or change the color of that paper here. That's what that's meant to be. The next layer is the shadow. Let me see if I can zoom in here so you can see just a little bit better. The shadow that the rings are casting on this inside cover under paper here. So if I hide the shadow layer, you can, oops, I didn't want to hide that. I wanted to hide the shadow layer. You can see those 2 little shadows down here. Those are the shadows that would be cast onto the spiral paper. I was trying to make this look as realistic as possible. The next layer says clip your paper here, and this is where we're going to attach whatever background paper that we want to turn into a spiral paper. That's going to get attached here. And then I've also given you a couple of different options for the color of these spirals. What you see right here is the black option, but I also included a copper option and I've included a gray option. So whichever you like, choose what you like, and I'll also show you how you can change the color, create a different color if that's what you'd like to match your paper. So let's go ahead and just let's leave the black one on and turn these to off. Are we right there? Yep, and let me back up a little bit. So you're seeing the whole thing, and let me go ahead and dock this layers panel back here. so that we're looking at that. Oops. Oh, the joys of live recording, huh? Okay, so the first we're going to do is we need to put a paper on top of this to start work here. So we're going to make sure that our paper layer, clip paper here layer is active, and then we're going to come to the menu and choose File, and we're going to come down to Place. Now we're going to navigate to where our papers are stored that we want to use. I'm going to be using my Garden Within papers, and I think I'm going to look for some patterns here. And let's see which pattern. Taking my screen a second here to draw. We've got, this one is a good candidate because it's got some open space here for journaling, and this one's quite open. That's very pretty. That's a little bit busy maybe. And then we've got this pink one. Let's do this pink one. So when you find the paper that you want to use, we're going to click Place and then click the check mark to accept that. Now what you'll notice is that the paper is completely covering everything, and we kind of know that because that center divider here between the two covers, the two pages, you can't see that. That's gone. And that just means that we need to attach this paper to our paper base. To do that, we're going to create a clipping mask. So we want to make sure that this paper layer is active, and then we're going to come to the menu and choose Layer, Create Clipping Mask. I just want to point out there are almost always a couple of ways you can accomplish the same thing in Photoshop or Elements, and you can see that in addition to using the menu, there's also a keyboard shortcut here. Mine is Option Command G, and on a PC that would say Alt Command G. So you can do that, or you can use a keyboard shortcut without even going there. You can hover your mouse over in between the two layers and hold down the Alt key on a PC or an Option key on a Mac, and you'll see that the cursor changes to a square with a down-facing arrow indicating that you're going to be clipping the layer that's active to the layer below it. So we'll do that. And now you can see that we can see the separator again, the space in between the two pages. So if you wanted to change this paper, we could do the same thing. This color in here, we could attach another paper, or we could make it into a solid color. Let's go ahead just to repeat this process so you get the hang of it. Let's go ahead and make this active and come up to File, Place, and we're going to navigate here to the solid papers in this collection here. One of these is brown. Oops, I said solid and I went right back to pattern, didn't I? Wanted solid, and just so you can see it, let's go ahead and choose this brown one and say Place. Again, we have to click the check mark to accept. Now you're seeing what you're supposed to be seeing without having to clip anything because it's the very bottom layer. But just so that we're consistent, I would go ahead and clip this so we're not confused about what we're doing. I would just go ahead and clip this anyway. So let's do that by coming up to Layer, Create Clipping Mask, and now we've kept everything sorted properly, and we have our two layers clipped. So if you are happy with this as it is, I mean, you can experiment with the different ring colors if you like. But if you're happy with it at this point, all you need to do is come to File, Save As, and then change this to a JPEG because you want your background papers to be a JPEG. They're always a JPEG. Navigate to where you want to save the paper and give it a name, and then it's ready to use. If you want to keep this PSD or TIFF file as a sample so you know exactly what to do next time, let me hide these because it's making that very fuzzy. You could do a file, save right now and save right on top of your template, or you could do File, Save As and give it a different name so that you're not overwriting your original template. That's totally up to you how you prefer to work. Now, I said that you could change the color of these spirals. So let's do that. Let's say you wanted these spirals. You want to see what they would look like if they were pink. So let's just select, make active the black spiral layer here, and come up to this little, the little icons up here at the top. We're going to be adding, click on this black and white half circle here. We're going to be adding a solid color. I'm going to click on that. And then, you know, I said I wanted to do it pink, and I forgot to select what color I wanted. And when you do this trick, it's always going to default color to whatever was in your foreground color, and mine was obviously this teal color, but that's okay, easy to fix. We're going to say okay, and then you'll notice the same thing happened as before when we brought our paper in. Right now, the entire screen is this teal color because we haven't said, because it's filling the entire layer, which is a 12 by 12 square. All we need to do is create a clipping mask to attach it to our spirals. So once again, I'm sorry, a clipping mask. So we want to make sure that this layer is active, come to the menu and choose Create Clipping Mask. And now you can see that we have changed the color of these rings. Let's zoom in a little bit so you can see that. Now obviously we wanted to try pink, and what we've got is this teal, which actually doesn't look too bad. It adds a nice bit of contrast here. But if you want to change, if you change your mind or want to change the color, just double click on the little color adjustment layer here, and then you can go ahead and sample, use the eyedropper here to sample a color from your layout. You can see that it changed immediately to the pink. Let's try this gold color, that yellow. Actually, I probably like that best. Can try it on the green. Oh, it sort of looked at that. It's just too light. I must have got white area. So maybe you like the white ones better. Whichever you like. I really do like the yellow here. I think that contrasts a little more. Say okay. And now you're ready to save your file again as a JPEG. If you don't like that, you can just really hide the visibility because you haven't really changed anything. You've just added another layer of color. The other thing I wanted to point out is that I have added shadows to each of the spiral layers. You can open up those shadows to see exactly what they are and change them if you're not liking them. And there's also shadows on the paper layer. This layer here would naturally cast a shadow on the pages below it if there were additional pages below. So feel free to change those if you want. That's why I've got this in a TIFF and PSD files, to give you as much flexibility as possible. So now let's go over to Photoshop. First I'm going to come back to my templates, and let's work with this single spiral on the left side here. I'm just going to double click on that to open it up in the full version of Photoshop. You'll see that this is very similar in layout to the center one, except that it does have an extra little page on it, and I want to show you that. So we've got the very bottom layer is the Underpaper. That's the white layer here. And then the shadow that the spirals cast on the Underpaper. But there's also, you'll see a clipped left paper to this. And you see, if I hide the visibility of that, that is the, let's hide all the rest of this so you don't have to see everything below there. That is, if you had a real spiral notebook, you know, obviously if it was open, you'd have a left page and a right page, sort of what we were looking at before. And this is meant to represent you're working on the right side page and you folded the left side underneath. So that's a little bit of what you might see the left side of the paper peeking through. I told you I was trying to make these realistic. So that's what that is. And then obviously we have our main working area here. And I've also given you, and this it looks like I've given you, must have gotten carried away because I've got some other spirals here. I have a silver, a chrome, a brass, a copper. Oh, Vicki, you did get carried away. And a gray, and then of course the black spiral as well. So let's go ahead and just step through making a paper here. Let's come and, well, let's do the main paper first. So making sure that we are selected active on the main clipping area, main paper here, I'm going to come into my back into Finder to find the paper I want. This is where things differ a little bit in Photoshop Elements versus Photoshop, and I'll show you what I mean here. Let's come into these papers and let's pick one of these florals. Let's pick, let's do this one right here. If I were to try to do, I'm going to click, let me just back up here. I'm going to hold down the Shift key and then I'm going to click and drag my paper onto my document. If I were to try to do that same thing right from Mac Finder, which is the same as Windows Explorer, if I were to try to do that in Photoshop Elements, it would actually put this paper in its own document window. It wouldn't add it to the PSD that's already open. So that's the reason I wanted to show you how to use the place in Photoshop Elements. So Photoshop works just a tiny little bit differently. We could use place, but we actually don't need to. So obviously now we need to clip this paper down to our main page so we can see everything below it. So once again, this works exactly the same as it did in Elements. Select the paper layer and then come up to Layer, Create Clipping Mask. It has all the same, by the way, the same exact keyboard shortcuts, and you can do the same trick of holding down the Alt or Option key when you're between the layers. So that all works exactly the same. So obviously now we've got our paper here. Let's go ahead and attach this paper here on the left side. I think that was down one layer here. Yes, it's the left paper here. So we're going to target that layer, and then let's come back here, and just so you can see it, let's just choose a different paper. Actually, I wanted to show you, let's use the same paper because it's got this border on the right side. And I wanted to show you kind of how cool this would look, because you're not going to know it's the same paper because you're just seeing a bit of it. So again, I'm going to click and drag, hold down the Shift key, click and drag, and then let go, and let's create our clipping mask. Let's do it with the shortcut keys this time. Hold down the Alt or Option key, hover between the two layers, the layer you want to clip and what you want to clip to, and you see this square and the arrow, and then click down and you've got it clipped. Now right here you do see that it's some paper, but it's not really clear. You know, just some white paper, and that's probably what you would see in most circumstances. But I just wanted to show you something else you can do, and that is if I Control or Command T to select this layer, I can actually drag it. See how it's got this pattern on the right? Well, I could click and drag this, and I could make it so this is actually showing here on the left. Just a little bit more realism. You really can't tell it's the same paper, but it gives you the idea of what you're trying to accomplish, that there was a paper there on the back. Now, this we can leave this white, or as I said before, you can attach a paper to it. I'm not really sure it's necessary, but just so to show you, actually let's just change the color of that. I'm going to come and up to the bar up here, and I'm going to choose to add an adjustment layer. Oops, that's not the adjustment layer. What am I doing? Got myself confused with Photoshop Elements. In Photoshop, it's down at the bottom. So I'm going to click on the Underpaper layer here, click on the adjustment layer icon, and choose solid color. It's defaulting to black because that's what my foreground color was. Here, let's just pick a color from here. I actually kind of want this to be pretty white. And also you don't want to lose the fact that it's showing you the shadow of the spirals. So maybe we choose something like that. I actually think it just looks more realistic if it was the white. So we just choose this really pale color. But that's how you would do that if you want to. And again, we would, let me see, open this up. I thought there might be an option to clip this directly to this paper here, but you don't. So we'll come up here and say Layer, Create Clipping Mask, just to keep things nice. Now once again, we could change the color of the rings if you wanted to. Let's go ahead, and these are black. This is one of the other things that works a little differently in Photoshop. versus Photoshop Elements. In the Layers Effects panel, if I double click on it and open it up, I'm sure you already know that you can add, in the effects here, it's showing you what effects you had applied, and that was just a drop shadow. But I can also add a color overlay here. You can't do that in Photoshop Elements. You have to use the adjustment layer. So that's another slight difference here. Same, accomplishes the same thing, you just get to it a little different way. So we're going to choose a cover overlay, and now I need to come to the color box here and pick a color. And let's say we wanted these to be teal, or maybe a darker teal here, and then say OK. So as I said, same way, same end result, just a different way to get to that in the full version of Photoshop. And as I said, all of these layers have their own shadows, which you are free to play with if you want to. Now you can come and do File, Save As, and save this as a JPEG. Oops, I probably just saved it right on top. I forgot to do save on top. Well, that teaches you I just saved on top of my original PSD, which is not what I wanted to do. So I'd have to go back to my zip file, unzip that to get my actual PSD. What I was going to show you was File, Save As, and then obviously save it as a JPEG because that's the format you want your papers to be. Navigate to where you want that to be, and then give it a name and save it. Also, I just wanted to, remind you, once you've got your paper made, you can certainly rotate this. Let me real quickly, I have a shortcut key here on my tablet here. I'm going to just make a stamped visible copy of this whole thing. And let me show you that pretend like I've just opened this up as a new document and it's a paper. I can Control or Command T, and you could actually switch these rings so the paper opens up the other way. Obviously, it doesn't work really well on this paper because you can tell our little birdie's upside down. But don't forget that's an option if you wanted to do that also. I did want to show you one other fun thing I sort of discovered by accident. Let's go to our templates. I just thought it was really kind of cool. Let's open up this single spiral in the full version of Photoshop, and then come over to many of my kits, especially the art journaling style ones, come with journal papers. This is a new set. This is another set that at the filming of this has not yet been released, but it's these garden papers. And as I was working with these, I wasn't even thinking that these papers already had a center crease on them to mimic the look of a craft journal or something. So I pulled one of those in. Let's just go ahead and do it because it still came out kind of cool. Hold down the Shift key and click and drag, and then I need to bring it down onto my base layer, above my base layer, and then select, layer, create clipping mask to clip it down. So, I mean, not 100% realistic. I'm not sure that you would have if you'd created this in real life, you wouldn't have been able to create this exactly perfectly like this on both sides of the paper. I mean, it just wouldn't happen in real life, but I still thought it was really cool effect. I kind of liked it anyway, so I wanted to show you that also. Okay, that's how you use these layered notebook templates. If you have any questions, just drop them in the comments below and I'll see if I can help. So there you go. That was pretty easy, wasn't it? Those templates are really versatile. And so if you like the look of spiral notebook papers for your scrapbook layouts, take a look at the link below. It'll take you over to my shop and you can check out my layered templates for yourself. If you like this video, please give me a thumbs up. I'd love for you to subscribe to my YouTube channel so you don't miss my other tutorials, and I really appreciate you watching. Thank you.